Hey guys, so the wonderful people down at Pitt Cycles in Warrendale, Pennsylvania let me borrow this bike in order to create a review on it. This is the brand new 2023 Triumph Rocket 3 GT Chrome with the Diablo Red. So this Triumph Rocket GT is the 165 horsepower model, and it also has about 163 torque. So both of those figures alone are highly impressive, but when you actually combine them, and the fact that they're getting that much power out of this bike is absolutely incredible. And when you talk to people about the Triumph Rocket GT, the number one thing that always gets brought up is this. It's legendary 2,500cc engine. That makes it the largest production engine in any motorcycle across any brand. Sure, there's one-offs like the Boss Haas, but those are not mass production. This is the largest mass production engine in any motorcycle. And funny enough, this isn't even the highest horsepower model they make. They technically have a step above that'll push that engine even to 180 horsepower and even squeak out some more torque, making it even crazier. This motorcycle is crazy not only due to the size of the engine, but the fact that it's a shaft drive, single-sided swing arm, leading to the largest rear tire I have ever seen on a motorcycle. And I even went above and beyond just to see, because I was curious, this 240 by 50 R16 tire, if you want a genuinely good tire, it is a little over $500 for that single back tire. You could cheap out real hard and maybe get one for like $350 to $400, but it would not perform the way this bike needs that rear tire to perform. As far as the cost to own, it does take the 93 octane, so it is the most expensive fuel. But the one big benefit is that engine, for being that size, it really doesn't drink it as fast as you would think. You could probably get somewhere in the neighborhood of about 35 miles to the gallon with it. At least that's what I was averaging during my ride from Warrendale, PA, down through Pittsburgh, back to my place, and then kind of bouncing around a little bit. I was rather impressed, and with it having a gas tank of right in the neighborhood of probably about 5 gallons plus or minus a bit, you're actually doing pretty solid. I guess especially if you consider my ZX6R, the 636, I'm getting about 33 miles to the gallon on that. So, I mean, it's technically for having 4 times the engine size, getting better gas mileage. So for those who are curious, what exactly is the cost to buy this motorcycle? Well, believe it or not, depending on what options, the horsepower type, the submodels you can pick from, you can find them anywhere from $25,000 up to like $29,000. This one in particular was sitting at the $25,500 mark, but it's actually on sale right now because it is a brand new 2023, but it was a leftover model, so they are marking it down quite significantly, at least this one specifically, but at least know if you're actually going to a dealership in your area, things like that, that if you're interested in a Rocket 3, be prepared for that $25,000 to $30,000 mark, depending on what kind of things the dealership is doing. Alright guys, let's talk features. What are you getting for your money on this motorcycle? Well, first and foremost, the one thing I'd like to point out is this actually does have cruise control, which is very convenient. I do a lot of traveling on the highway. That is a phenomenal feature for me. I've never had it before. So getting to try it out was kind of awkward, thinking of it being a manual transmission, but it actually was quite nice. It held its own. It did exactly what you would think it would do. No complaints here. And that's not the only feature I've never gotten to try on any motorcycle before. The heated grips is actually something I've never had before. Got to try it for the first time. And at the dealership, they even warned me that once you try it, you can't ever go back. Well, I will say, when you turn it on, there's 3 settings. You've got high, medium, and low. And high was making those heated hand grips so hot, it was actually hard to touch the handles even through my gloves. I couldn't believe how well they worked. I think that if you're someone who rides in cold conditions, this is not a bike you have to be afraid to take out if it's a nice clear day and in the high 30s. Your hands will be warm, that is for sure. The other really neat thing about this motorcycle is if you notice over here on the RPM, very similar to a car, which I guess makes sense because of the engine, it redlines just a dash over 6,000 RPM. So for me, I'm used to my bike redlining at 16,000. So that was kind of a mix-up for me, kind of realizing that 6,000 is now kind of the red line essentially. But all that power, all that torque is like super accessible. You can access it as low as like 3,000 RPM and you feel it from 4,000, 5,000. That is your power band right there. You are living in your max band. It is so comfortable and easy to cruise on. The most difficult part of it, honestly, is the weight. It weighs something like 800 plus pounds. Oh, my apologies, I was fact checked. It is 698 wet weight pounds for this bike. I was considering, after the riders on it and whatnot, you're more than likely going to be pushing that 800-900 pounds with rider, and boy do you feel it when it is actually like taking slow turns. People who are used to a cruiser, I've talked to Rocket 3 owners, they say it handles its weight extremely well in comparison, but coming from a super sport, to me this was a total change. I had no idea or expectation of the amount of concentration and effort and pre-planning you have to do for your turns with this type of motorcycle, and that was definitely an eye-opening moment for me. It is definitely a bike that was above my weight on that standard. But between that weight and that engine, you'll notice that every cable, as far as your clutch and your brake, everything is like steel. It's all like metal braided. So everything you do and have is like heavily reinforced, which typically means that the clutch is a very heavy clutch. And this one is no doubt a heavier clutch. When I was riding it for an hour and a half yesterday, it definitely wore my hand out trying to manhandle that clutch. But I will say that, again, that's one of those things where I have a hard time relating because I don't typically ride motorcycles like this, so it might be something totally normal for you. And if you're already adapted to it, ready for it, it's going to be nothing out of the ordinary for you. The other thing that really blew my mind with it was just how quiet the motorcycle is despite that monstrous engine. Here, let me start it up for you. So for the first time in a long time, I was able to actually ride yesterday without my ear protection in, and I didn't feel any discomfort. To be brutally honest, the wind noise was way louder than anything I was experiencing on the road. So yeah, I was very impressed with how quiet the bike is despite that engine. So I imagine, even though the exhaust looks gorgeous, I mean, that is just such a beautiful setup. They really made a great job at making that exhaust look amazing. I imagine a lot of people's first modification is going to be getting that a lot louder. It's just changing that system out to a much louder system, which is a shame because that is just gorgeous. Otherwise, to continue on with the features a little bit, you've got your standard screen here where it shows you different miles, times, things like that. You can go to your fuel and kind of see different odds and ends there. You can see your temperature gauges if you want, switch it from daytime to nighttime if you prefer the dark out theme. You've got a lot of customization in here. You can do all kinds of different little setups and pretty much adjust this to look however you want it to look. And it's actually really nice, to be honest. It's a beautiful screen. You can see it in all kinds of ways. You can set up how much info you do or don't want it to see. You've got a ton of customization. And the aftermarket options on it are pretty fair, to be honest. I've seen people come in and previous owners or current owners, they had all kinds of saddlebag hookups. They've had like tank packs, although they didn't have the chrome one. And this chrome is gorgeous. Look, that is like an absolute mirror. It is beautiful. And then they've had all kinds of accessories. There's not much that you couldn't do. I would probably upgrade the seat to make it a little bit more comfy, but it's not bad by any means. And one thing I learned the hard way, which I thought was rather funny, was I had a person come in and they were asking me different odds and ends about like, okay, well, there's the seat, there's the passenger seat, where's the passenger pegs? They built it so beautifully into the body. Boom. And it's just like that on both sides. That way you can get all nice and set up and comfortable so that you and your passenger can sit comfortably on this motorcycle, which if you were someone who does not typically have a passenger, I would recommend a seat or setup that will put this kind of here so that you yourself as the rider have a backrest to lean back on. Because with your feet being far forward, hands up on the bars like that, it would be nice to have something to just kind of relax your back and rest on. But maybe that's just a height thing because I'm like 6'1". Maybe different heights wouldn't even have that problem, complaint, or thought. I'm not entirely sure, as I'm not super like used to these bikes in general.